All again, welcome back to the Zander channel. Here I help people get out of their heads and establish and maintain our connection to our heart. Yes, even if you're a man. Now, this is my path to happiness, joy, and love. I will also post on how to get out of depression, suicide, stress, anxiety, and other lower vibrational energies on your path to your happiness, especially during times of true or fantasy crisis, such as the time of this video posting. I invite you to subscribe and join me in this journey towards peace, joy, and happiness. Now, this video is How to Focus a Wandering Mind by Miss Wendy Hassenkamp. So, the new research back in 5 years ago or so, when she wrote the article, new research reveals what happens in a wandering mind. It sheds light on the cognitive and emotional benefits of increased focus. Because focus is the currency of the mind and the soul. We've all been there. You're slouched in a meeting or a classroom, supposedly paying attention, but your mind has long since wandered off. You're not even in the same universe. You're churning out lists of all the things you need to do, or that you could be doing if only you weren't stuck sitting here listening to that blah blah blah. Suddenly, you realize everyone is looking your way, expectantly waiting for an answer. But you're staring back blankly, grasping at straws to make a semi-coherent response to a half of an idea or a question. The curse of the wandering mind. Don't worry, you're not the only one, right? A recent study by Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert sampled over 2,000 adults during their day-to-day activities, found that 47% of the time their minds were not focused on what they were actually frickin' doing at the current time. Even more striking, when people's minds were wandering, they reported being less happy. Go figure. This suggests it might be good to find ways to reduce these mental distractions and improve our ability to focus. Ironically, mind wandering in and of itself helps strengthen our ability to focus if leveraged properly. This can be achieved using an age-old skill, meditation. Indeed, a new wave of research reveals what happens in our brains when our minds wander. And it sheds light on a host of cognitive and emotional benefits that come with increased focus. Now, what happens in the wandering mind? For something that happens so often, what do we really know about the process of mind wandering? For thousands of years, right, contemplative practices such as meditation have provided a means to look inward and investigate our mental processes. It may seem surprising, but mind wandering is actually a central element of focused attention. In this foundational style of meditation, or focused attention meditation, the practitioner is instructed to keep her attention on a single object, often the physical sensations of breathing. Sounds simple enough, but it's much easier said than done. So try it for a minute and see what happens. Just 1 minute. So what you want to do is inhale and focus on the feeling of that inhalation through your nostrils. Feel it on the back of your throat, right? Feel your lungs expand. Focus on one of those things, right? Especially in the beginning. Later on, you may want to focus on more than one, but that's another video on meditation. So, you can also focus on the exhalation breath and how it feels coming out your nose or your mouth, whichever you prefer. Okay. Now, If you're like most people, before long your attention will wander away into rumination, fantasy, analyzing, planning. At some point, you may realize that your mind is no longer focused on the breath. With this awareness, you proceed to disengage from the thought that had drawn your mind anyways and steer your attention back to your breath. A few moments later, the cycle will likely repeat. Repetition is key. Right. So, at first, it might seem like there's a tendency towards mind wandering would be a problem for the practice of the FA meditation. Right? Continually derailing your attention from the goal of keeping your mind on the breath. However, the practice is really meant to highlight this natural trajectory of the mind, and in doing so, it trains your attention system to become more aware of the mental landscape, and at any given moment, and get more adept at navigating it. With repeated practice, it doesn't really take so long to notice that you've slipped into some kind of rumination or daydream. It also becomes easier to drop your current train of thought and return your focus to the breath. Those who practice say that thoughts start to seem less sticky and they don't have such a hold on you. Getting out of your mind is getting away from these thoughts that seemingly stream themselves together somehow, either because of a similar feeling or because of a similar situation. Right? That's what those sticky thoughts are, and then you start running down a rabbit hole and you don't know where you started. Right? As a neuroscientist and meditator, this girl, she's been long fascinated with what might be happening in her brain when she meditates. Now, being familiar with both subjective first-person meditative practice and objective third-person scientific research, she wonders what would happen if she put these two modes of investigation together. Could she possibly get a more fine-grained picture of how this process works in the brain by leveraging the experiences of these cognitive shifts during meditation? So, the other issue from this author, you must understand that each person is going to be different. Oh, that was easy for her. Well, it can be done. Determination. Right? How important is it to you? Remember, attention is the currency of the soul and the mind. How much attention do you give to yourself? When's the last time you said that I love you to yourself? Truthfully. Meaningfully. So, she started considering the default mode network, which is a set of brain areas that tend to increase in activity when we're not actively engaged in anything else. In other words, when your mind tends to wander. Maybe it was this default mode network that kept barging in during her meditations and interfering with her ability to keep the mind and attention focused. Now, maybe this network was what she was learning to tune down by practicing over and over. So she was wondering if she could test it scientifically. So, thanks to funding from Mind and Life Institute, with the help of colleagues at Emory University, she started to test which brain areas were related to meditation. So, we asked meditators to focus on their breath while scanning their brains. Whenever they realize their mind has been wandering, they press a button. Then they would return their focus to their breath as usual, and practice would continue. As they did so, they collected MRI data showing which brain regions were active before, during, and after the buttons were pressed that corresponded to various mental states. This study that she did was published in the Journal of Neuroimage. Found that indeed during periods of mind wandering, regions of the brain's default mode network were activated. Then, when participants became aware of this mind wandering, brain regions related to that detection of salient or relevant events came online. After that, areas of the executive brain network took over, redirecting and maintaining attention to a chosen object. And all of this occurred within 12 seconds around those button pressing times. Now, looking at activity in these brain networks this way suggests that when you catch your mind wandering, you're going through a process of recognizing and shifting out of the default mode processing by engaging numerous attention networks. Understanding the way the brain alternates between focused and distracted states of implications for a wide variety of everyday tasks, for example, when your mind wandering off in that meeting, right, or in that classroom. It might help you know if you're slipping into default mode, and you can deliberately bring yourself back to the moment, and that's an ability that can be improved with repetition and training, usually through meditation. Mindfulness, right? The benefits of building your focus. Now, what are the other practical implications of this knowledge? Recent behavioral research shows that practicing meditation trains various aspects of your attention. Studies show that meditation training not only improves the working memory and fluid intelligence, but even standardized your test scores. It's not surprising. This kind of repeated mental exercise is like going to the gym, only you're building your brain instead of your muscle. So, if you want to look good, you go to the gym. If you want to sound good and intelligent, keep your focus, keep your attention, you work the mind. So, mind wandering is like the weight you add to the barbell. You need some resistance to the capacity you're trying to build. Without mind wandering to derail your attempts to remain focused, how could you train the skills of watching your mind and controlling your attention? So, in her study, we also wanted to look at the effects of lifetime meditation experience on the brain activity. In agreement with a growing number of studies, we found that experience actually matters. Those who were more experienced meditators had different levels of brain activity in the relevant networks. This suggests that their brains may have changed due to repeated practice and a process called neuroplasticity, another big buzzword today. Now, one brain area stood out in the analysis. The medial prefrontal cortex are a part of the default mode network that is particularly related to self-focused thoughts. Me, it's all about me. Which make up a good portion of mind-wandering content. It turns out that experienced meditators deactivated this region more quickly after identifying mind-wandering than the people that had not meditated as much as they have, suggesting they might be better at releasing distracting thoughts like a rehash of a personal to-do list or something slightly that they suffered at work yesterday, or somebody stole their homework or whatever. Now, in a follow-up study, they found that these samples, the same participants, had greater coherence between activity in the medial prefrontal cortex and the brain areas that allowed you to disengage attention. This means that the brain region for attentional disengagement has greater access to the brain region underlying the distraction, possibly making it easier to disengage. Other findings support this idea. More experienced meditators have increased connectivity between default mode and attention brain regions, and less default mode activity while meditating. So this might explain how it feels easier to drop thoughts as you become more experienced in meditation, and thus better able to be focused. Thoughts become less sticky because your brain gets rewired to be in a better to be better at recognizing and disengaging from mind wandering. And if you've ever struggled with rumination, or reliving a negative experience over and over again, or stressing unproductively about an upcoming event, you can appreciate how being able to let go of your thoughts could be a huge benefit. It will make you happier, less stressed, right? So indeed, Killingsworth and Gilbert's study that she mentioned earlier found that when people's minds were wandering, they tended to be less happy, presumably because our thoughts often tend towards negative ruminations or stress through the programming of the media. Your TV shows. It's called programming for a reason. See my video on hypnosis of the media. Now, so that's why mindfulness meditation has become increasingly important treatment for mental health difficulties such as depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and even sexual dysfunctions. So, as a recap, attention is the currency of the mind. Attention is the currency of your soul. Attention is the currency of your feelings. So, what you pay attention to is what gets modified or multiplied. If you want a negative feeling, think of a negative thought. If you want a positive feeling, think of a positive thought. Which one do you think is going to make you more happy? Smash that like button, subscribe below if you learned something, agreed, or found this interesting. Comment below if you want to ask an educated question that you actually want the answer to. And if you love my sexy face, hit the notification bell for my next posting herein, because I will have plenty more. Now, a couple of ideas for you to ponder upon before you shut this thing down. The future of medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Albert Einstein. See my video on the Schumann resonance. No disease, including cancer, can exist in an alkaline environment. Dr. Otto Warburg, 1931 Nobel Prize winner for discovery of cancer. Try getting away from necromancy, such as eating meat. How do you gain life from death? Why are you taking medical and health advice from people who have a vested monetary interest when you're diseased? Are doctors improving your health or their wallets? I believe medical school is quite expensive. Is a healthcare system or is it a disease management system? I'm not saying ditch your doctor, especially if you're on continuous medications. You are responsible for your own health. Seize that responsibility, or your ability to respond. And regulate what goes in your mouth. Regulate what comes out of your mouth too. Ask yourself if there's love there. Let thine food be thine medicine, and thine medicine be thine food. Peace, love, and happiness to you all. Good day, and happy day.